Well, hi again. It's me, Svani Svavars and Ingibjörg Álrós Björnsdóttir. And we're having a conversation. She is the autistic lady that I want to learn from. And today we're going to talk about learning styles. I think Ingibjörg has a lot of good ideas to give us ideas of how we can do that. The first question is, Ingibjörg, can you discuss with me problem-based learning? You talked about that once with me, that you felt like that would be the route to go when educating students on the spectrum.
Yes, I feel I have myself experience from a master's program where problem-based learning was used, and I know it is often used for students of medicine. But in this case, we were international students, so we were from all over the world, and the program was in English. And we were in groups, which is a little bit difficult for autistic people, but we were like 4 and 5 together. And then we got a real problem. Like, we were in Gothenburg in Sweden at the Chalmers University of Technology. And there we got the problem air pollution. And like in Gothenburg, like in many large cities, air pollution from cars and traffic is a large problem. And we got no info. We just, the teacher said, the professor said, now you have air pollution. You have to go and find out yourself what we are talking about, both pollution in the city and also pollution and climate change and everything about that. And because we didn't know anything, and because the teachers didn't tell us anything, there were no lectures. So we had to run to the computers to find on the internet the information that we needed. And we had to read the books, and we went ourselves to the library to get the books because we needed the information. So we had the incentive was on the students' side. There were no lectures. The teachers were not giving any information. They were just observing what we were doing. So, and we, there were some like tours that we got to see, like we were measuring air pollution. So I took active carbon, which is in a little tube. I went out with active carbon in a little tube, and then the air pollution, it sort of got absorbed into the tube, and then I took the active carbon and I eluated it and made the liquid go through it, and the pollution went into the liquid, and then I injected it into a gas chromatograph, and I was able to get like a graph, and all the peaks in the graph, they showed the pollution. So I could actually, it was very strange. I think I was 2 minutes taking the sample, and there were like 30 different peaks of different chemicals, all kinds of, not the type of chemicals that you really want. But then we had to find also solution. How can we solve traffic pollution? What is possible to do? First, we had to measure the pollution. Then we had to like quantify it. Then we had to suggest some remedies or some action that could be taken. Then we had a symposium on climate change, and we had to do everything ourselves. There was nobody is telling us what to do. We had to find out ourselves, and we sort of divided into groups. This was a long time ago. This was in 1995. Mm-hmm. And some of the students really didn't believe in climate change, and I was sure climate change was happening. So I was more like Greta Thunberg, saying climate change is really going to happen. But there were some other students that didn't believe it. So the students sort of got divided into 2 groups, the ones that did believe that climate change was happening and the other ones who didn't. And I was like the leader of the group of the ones that were certain that climate change was going to happen. And unfortunately, I know too much about it. So, but then,
so in a sense, it was student driven, because it made sense to you, and it became meaningful. And then you had to go and figure out the solution. So this was really kind of student driven, and that makes sense to all of you. And
yes, and then we had to write a report. All the projects that we got over the winter, there were 4 large projects, and we had to write a large, like a 200-page report on each subject, really. So we had to give the information, and then we had to present our reports. So we were giving the lecture. We were teaching our teachers about the subject.
well, this is really the way you want to see education going on today, but sadly, maybe not so. But so it comes to the next question that I want to talk about. It's the optimal learning situation. Can you discuss that with us?
From an autistic point of view?
Yes.
I think,
yeah.
yes, I think it is important that autistic people get to choose whether they are in groups or not. Sometimes it's good to be in a group, but sometimes it is not. I mean, it also has a lot to do with open spaces. A lot of, like at the University of Iceland, a lot of the group work is in open space. And so there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of interference. And it's very difficult for the sensory side of things. So I would say that it's very much fun to do problem-based learning, but it has to be in a setting that is good for autistic people, really. I mean, we were in a group, but we were not in an open area. We were 4 working together, but we were 4 alone working together. And I think the problem is often that when you have some kind of group work, then you have a large area with many tables. And so there may be 12 groups of 4 people working together, and that is not good for autistic people. But autistic people can work in groups if the group is working on its own, alone, like 4 people together and nothing else happening, no sound, maybe nothing.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you would really
and of course I really enjoyed this problem-based learning. For me, that was really the most interesting type of learning, to really get a real problem, like a drinking water problem or air pollution problem or ecotoxicological problem in a lake or acid rain in lakes, and then to be able to actually work on it and solve it. And these were concrete things, real things.
Mm-hmm. You once told me that you really liked the way you were taught when you go into primary school or elementary. Your teacher was doing a lot of comparing societies, and you felt you learned a lot. Remember that?
Yes. Yes, that was when I was a kid. We were learning about Iceland, of course, is Scandinavian. Iceland is a Northern European Scandinavian society, a sort of modern technological society with all the with a lot of companies and cars and a lot of traffic and everything like that. Fishing industry and farming and food industry. There's a lot of food industry in Iceland. And then we were comparing our society, the fishing village in Iceland, we were comparing it to a village in Tanzania, where the landscape, the nature is totally different, where people have herds of animals and they're living more with the herds of animals in huts, and they are in a warm climate. So it was really very, 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 very different from our society. And we started realizing that we don't need all these gadgets. We don't need all these things, all the stuff that we have with us, you know. It's a lot of it is not necessary. So we managed to see that Tanzania was able to survive without many of the gadgets that we have in Iceland.
You guys have in Iceland, and also learning about what does community mean. Wasn't that often.
Yes, in Africa, of course, you have the saying that of Ubuntu. Ubuntu in South Africa, it means that you don't become a human being except through other human beings, and that means that and Ubuntu is really the most important thing in Africa. That is not to be rich; it is to be like respected, and respect is something you cannot get from people without earning it, and you cannot buy respect with money. You have to have earned respect. And Ubuntu is a kind of social respect, and that is like the most valuable thing in Africa, as I understand it.
Mm-hmm. So you learned a lot about, comparing society, but also realizing what community is all about, isn't it? I think that's kind of...
Yes, that was also, I mean, the fishing village, we had to look at the fishing village and see what the fishing village needs. It needs ships, it needs someone to work on the fish, it needs a school, it needs a fire station, it needs a police station, it needs a church, and all kinds of things like that. It was not as complicated in Tanzania, even though they have all these things. It's just a bit different. They don't need the institutions. It's like in Tanzania, you have a shaman, you have a lion shaman in Tanzania, but he's not an institution, he's just an individual, and he's integrated into the community. And also, like in Tanzania, like that, if somebody is depressed, you throw him a party. If you're depressed, all your friends come to you and they tell you how much they love you and how much they value you, and they throw you a big party to show you how much they treasure you, so that your depression may go away. And that is at least that's a social aspect of. I mean, I don't think the loneliness. One of the greatest problems in European societies is loneliness, and autistic people, especially in Europe and America, are among the loneliest people on the planet. And people are actually dying from loneliness because they are losing the will to live because they are so lonely. So they really just decide to go. In a way, they may go ill, but they in a way they've decided to become ill because they are so lonely that they so. But in Africa, that doesn't happen as much because there you're integrated into a community, you're part of a community, and nobody lets you get that lonely.
No, exactly. So you're always doing something in a group with other people, and I think
yes, and you don't have the stigma. You don't have the stigma either. The stigma that is in Western societies is not as much in Africa.
So through those activities, you had a lot of social interactions, didn't you?
Yes, we got a lot of interesting. We were making pictures, and the kids together as a class, yes, as a group was working on this. Yes, the whole class.
So through those activities, the social engagement, social interactions, friendships started and flourished, didn't they?
Yes, and we actually got also to think about what we wanted to do within the society when we grew up. And I decided to become a dentist, which I didn't, but I played the dentist. And I remember there was one boy in the class who said, I want to be a farmer, because my grandfather is a farmer and I want to be a farmer. And now I think he was the brightest kid in the class. I think he was the one that was most connected to reality, really. He wanted to be a farmer like his grandfather.
Yeah, well, maybe that was a good decision. Do you know, is he a farmer today?
I don't know, I haven't seen him for...
But I think this was a great conversation, Ingibjo. I think it's important to get your point of view of how we need to educate and how we need to, and I think exactly what's missing too many times today in schools is that it's not student focused. It's too much teacher directed, and
Yes.
And then you are not going to have as much, and then it becomes meaningful. If it's me who decides, then the responsibility is on me, and it gets lost if the teacher's making decision. What is your point of that?
Yes, definitely. There is also that we are responsible for our lives, and I think one of the main problems with society today is that people are blaming other people for their problems, and I think most psychiatrists, they really just at the end they ask people come to a psychologist or a psychiatrist and they tell about their problem, and then the psychologist says what do you want to do about it? What are you going to do about your situation? People say I'm in a hopeless situation, but then the psychiatrist says, or psychologist says, what do you want to do? And then people become kind of offended because they don't realize that they are actually the creators of their own destinies, and we are creators of our own destinies. We may even have what we call a causal body, and we are continuously creating our lives. So ultimately, our health and everything is our own responsibility, and nobody can take or should, in fact, take that responsibility from us.
And I think that's an excellent point to make, because if we start earlier to involve the students and all, talk to them about, this is your education, what do you want to go with this, then that automatically comes with, how am I doing? Yeah. How am I, where am I heading? And we start stop blaming others. It's all about me. I need to turn around and make decisions. Yeah, I love that idea. Thank you, Ingibjo. This was great. I think this is a nice section for the next one. We'll talk about more
yes,
social interactions and being with other people more, maybe how we discuss that. But thank you for today. This was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.